WhiteHat Security does application security for both small and enterprise level customers. It was founded in 2001, so now going into 16 years of business. It has over 320 employees. Most of those employees are based here in our headquarters in Santa Clara, California. You also see here it has 150 plus security experts. Now those are highly trained application security engineers who can go in and look at those vulnerabilities that are found by our platform and let the clients know that those are real and how to prioritize them. So that's something that's unique and different to WhiteHat Security. And we also have over 800 active customers. So I'm the Director of Demand Generation at WhiteHat Security, and I've been with WhiteHat Security over 4 years. So I've seen a lot of change and growth at WhiteHat over those years. And today I'm going to talk about our ABM journey so far at WhiteHat, but we do have a hybrid approach where we use more of a traditional demand gen model, and ABM is the newer part of that model. So first off, I'd like to talk about, for WhiteHat Security, why should we play the ABM game at all? It's not something we wanted to go into lightly, but we did a business, we had our business looked at as a process end to end, starting with demand gen and all the way to close sales, either close won, close lost, and looked at how we compared to peers, how we did with our benchmarks, and then what we found, what our ideal customer profile is. And since we have determined that, we learned that having an ABM strategy would be a good fit for WhiteHat Security. So we looked at what our top industries are, our key geographies, what are the kind of top 2 personas that we could go out with. So and in that we saw, from our current customer base, there's certain accounts and types of customers we sell better to than others. And like I said, in the time I've been here, we have a pretty solid traditional demand gen program in place, but it can only scale to a point. You usually have to put more money in the top of the funnel and more leads in order to get more out the bottom. So there's some limitations there. And we also wanted to better organize the sales and marketing gaps and have better alignment. And from everything that I've studied and learned, and a lot of you have, is that this is a great way to do that. And we also wanted to shift to a digital transformation, both from mainly for a cost perspective. So there's a lot of more things we could leverage with less cost to help reach those contacts with those accounts. Now we decided as a company that we were going to add ABM in as part of our structure and our program in the beginning of 2016, but it was around spring when we said, okay, now we're going to launch it. Now we got to figure out how to do this. What's the best way to go forward with that? So for us, what did that spring training entail? So there were every spring and probably in the fall too, there's a lot of marketing conferences, and there was a lot around the topic of ABM. So it was really perfect timing for our core ABM team, including myself, to get in there and see how to do this and what that framework looks like and how to get it going and how to structure it. There was several marketing conferences in the spring. We talked with probably dozens of MarTech vendors and those that were even targeting ABM, and so there was a lot of demos. There was a lot of intensive data analysis when we started narrowing down some of those choices, checking customer references, and also ongoing learning from webinars, reading articles. And then it came a point where we just had to get started and start learning how to do it by doing. So when we started out, there were some early strikeouts. So we did start with working with sales to get those accounts for our top, I guess we determined top 3 verticals to go with, and started from there. And so in a way, we started playing before the field was really ready for us to go out, but we wanted to get it going once we had already made a decision as a company to go this direction. And in some cases, it felt like there were really too many accounts per vertical that were selected that could possibly be worked in a year. And we prioritized them down. So the very, very top accounts per vertical would be our A accounts, and then the mid-level ones for enterprise, and a few and the small and mid-size would be B accounts, and then everything else would be that were on that list would be C accounts. So they would still be marked as ABM accounts, but without that personalization and that follow-up. And so we did also move ahead with more of a vertical-based marketing approach, more than specific to ABM. And we looked at what contacts we had in our existing database and did some outbound marketing air cover, with Marketo outbound emails, some online advertising. We worked very closely with product marketing for these three verticals to start getting very specific content that would make sense and appeal to the personas in those verticals. And then we also started working with the SDRs on how this would look and how it would be structured. But there still wasn't a lot of really that definite needed structure in order to get it going. And then we wanted to determine what's WhiteHat's batting order and how we're going to go out and do this. And like I mentioned before, when we started doing a vertical approach, and so at the beginning of 2016, we started finding whatever insights we could about different contacts in those verticals. So earlier when John at TechTarget was talking about Priority Engine, that's where we started pulling some of that data from, was Priority Engine, to see what contacts in those industries, what they were looking at, and what insight we could get from there. We also needed to, in terms of operations, we needed to create some custom fields in Salesforce in order to track these ABM accounts at the account level versus what we were doing with the lead level. And also work to set KPIs with the SDR team around follow-up with those accounts. And so we did start with the healthcare vertical and some air cover. And in this next slide, I'll show a little bit about what that journey looks like. And so at the top level, going from left to right, those are the items that marketing touches. So on the far upper left is an example of an online ad for the healthcare vertical. So we put our accounts into the system and start sharing that out. So they would start getting that air cover and some awareness of who WhiteHat is and what we can do. And if they click that ad and they come back to our WhiteHat Security website, they'd see the web personalization there with a personalized statistics report that's targeted to somebody in healthcare. And then they'll also, if they're in our existing database as a contact, they would see an outbound Marketo email explaining the importance of why someone in healthcare should be concerned with web application security. And then follow up from there, going from left to right on the bottom, are where it picks up from the SDR side. So they would follow up with their cadence, again, with some targeted and more personalized email of why this should be important to them. It would drive them to a content board with specific healthcare vertical content that looks like it's personalized for them. And then also the cadence involves follow-up calls and voicemails in order to reach the account. And as we know with ABM, there's multiple buyers in that account, and so the SDRs are looking for all the possible members of that buying team and doing that outreach to them to find that right person who can take that meeting. And then we also needed to start using this to read the right signals. We wanted to find out who knows us already. Now, in terms of who knows us, those are the contacts that we already have in our database who are active with WhiteHat. Maybe we've met them at a trade show, they've clicked on our emails, they've searched our website. And so those are the ones who know us. They may or may not have taken any steps to move forward with that meeting, but we know that they are an active contact. Who are those who don't know us but should know us? Again, this is where it really started to help to use something like TechTarget Priority Engine, and this is a problem we wanted to solve from the beginning by using this, is who's searching on application security who might not know WhiteHat Security at all. And then we were able to give them our list of accounts for ABM, and then we can pull these week to week to see in those verticals and in those ABM accounts who's been searching on application security. We can find out which core competitors they're looking at, which core topics they're looking at, who in that buying team has been doing the searching and at what role they're at. So that information we can give back to the SDRs so that they have some more details on how to follow up with those accounts. And then it also helps us build out that contact list as well in order to kind of flesh out that buying team for the ABM account. And then, following that, there's what do we know about this account? And this is where, when we were going through our MarTech evaluation on what are the gaps and what do we need to find, we wanted to have a platform that would really tie marketing and sales together and give that insight into the account. So this is where Engagio can help us. It can not only show, what marketing activities they've done, but also where they've taken action on any follow-up, from the SDR cadence emails that have gone out, any other follow-up activities, and what overall that looks like. Here's an example of how TechTarget's worked with us. It's when they start to see on their sites a lot of engagement, they will feed that back to us in some cases. And here's one where they say, here's a healthcare account, and here are the prospects and what their levels are that have been searching on that, and some more insight there, and kind of giving us the heads up of like, hey, this is an account you may want to follow up with. And again, that's the details we also get week to week from the details in Priority Engine. And so, we started with our first vertical, which again was healthcare, about the end of Q3 last year, and now we're closing in at almost a year on the first one. We added our second vertical in earlier this year, and now we're going to add the third. And I think at that point we'll be pretty good there in terms of having that momentum with multiple industries. We are seeing some good growth on the pipeline side, and that's one of the things one of the challenges with ABM is continuing to have faith that it's going to get there, and we're already seeing that momentum and a lot of progress there. We were able to get more insights once we started leveraging MarTech, which we launched a good deal of it in Q1 of this year. So that's giving us more insight and more information on what accounts to target and how to follow up with accounts. So that's what I think one of the biggest differentiators is when you're talking about ABM versus where sales might say, okay, traditionally we've already been targeting by accounts. This isn't new, but that MarTech insight is really that big differentiator. Strong sales and marketing alignment. This is getting better and better quarter after quarter. On the demand gen team, we have to work really closely with the SDR team, and so this gives us another opportunity to work with them on that and partner together to help break into those accounts. And ongoing communication and refinement. So there may be times when both marketing and sales are going about their normal business, and they might circle back and say, hey, how are things going with ABM? And and how can we leverage it further, and what can we do? So we need to have frequent stakeholder meetings for ongoing communication, how we want to build it out, how we want to extend it, and maybe into our install base, and continuing to make it better over time, and as we learn from it. And at the end of this year, we'll have some good baseline metrics on how this is working for us. And I know that this is, I think John talked about this before, Charlie's talked about it, takes practice. There's not anyone who's doing it one particular way. There's not one goal or one way to do it that just really brings in the home run every single time, and it's different for every business. So that's why there's practice. You got to take a look at what's working and what's not working, and different ways to leverage that.